Emotional spoiling is when you try and make sure that they're never upset that they get everything they want. That is a disaster. I always said, I'll make sure our home life is great and we'll have lots of fun and it's all wonderful here, but when you go out in the world, you got to earn what you get. If you really love your kids, don't spoil them. Their love language is playing with you and feeling enjoyed, feeling like you actually like being with them. Everyone wants to fix their kids, but really, we don't fix kids here, we teach parents. Kids who feel good about themselves aren't rude, they aren't disrespectful, they aren't snotty. Spoiling kids is mean because they're always miserable. I've never seen a spoiled kid that looked happy because they're never going to get enough. Nothing's ever enough for them. Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Hello, parents. Hello, Amy.
Hello, Lisa. Mom.
Thank you. I hate it when my kids call me Lisa. My son did that the other day. Hey, Lisa, can you pass the gravy?
The only time I really, well, except for that, the only time I ever do it is when we're out and I'm trying to get your attention. I'm like, Mom, Lisa. And then you look.
I get it. But we were just at a Christmas dinner. I think I would have heard him if he'd said Mom. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, and then he says, oh, would you rather me call you Mummy? And I, thinking I was going to be annoyed, and I went, I would love that.
He's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Okay. Just for context, he's 35. So anyway, he's not 2. So I don't know what we're talking about. As per usual, I don't like to plan anything. I don't work very well that way. So what are we talking about today, sweetie?
Kids, the impact of spoiling kids.
Good one. There's different types of spoiling, but I'm sure we'll get into it as we go along because there's emotional spoiling and then there's just physical like things.
Well, how about we get into those?
Okay, well, emotional spoiling is when you try and make sure that they're never upset that they get everything they want. That is a disaster. Spoiling them with stuff isn't as bad, believe it or not, but it's still not good either because you're building entitlement with both of them. But yeah, so there you go. That's spoiling.
Where is that balance? Because I know obviously a lot of parents don't want to spoil their kids, but they also don't want to be too harsh. So where is that line?
Well, we spoiled you, I would say, with experiences. We did a lot of stuff. So like we would go away, we went skiing, we traveled, and did stuff like that. But I didn't want you to have a lot of stuff. Like I never wanted you to have the latest trends in fashion or anything like that. I just didn't want to do it. It was my choice. If you want to do that, that's fine. But it was just my choice. And I used to say to my kids, you've got allowance. And I said, I'll buy you the basic clothes. If you want the labels, you pay the extra. They never once ever did, right through the teen years even. So yeah, I didn't want them to think that labels and that made them good. Like it doesn't make anyone good. It just makes you look, like needy sort of. So yeah, I didn't like stuff like that. So plus I wanted my kids to learn that not everything goes their own way. And neither one of them have a spoiled attitude. They work for what they get. So yeah, I didn't want them to think, I never wanted to try and make life easy for them. I always said, I'll make sure our home life is great and we'll have lots of fun and it's all wonderful here. But when you go out in the world, you got to earn what you get. So I didn't, and I never, like if someone had, I never want them to get a participation award or anything like that, an award for doing nothing. I like them to learn how to earn stuff.
Yeah, I think I never expected to get anything extra. It was a wonderful treat or surprise if you did, but I never expected it.
Well, it's not a treat if you ask for it too. I used to say, if you ever ask me for anything when we're out, you'll get nothing because that's just me feeling a spoiled demand. But the odd time I would say, hey, pick out a chocolate bar or something. They'd be, whoa, yippee. Because it was so rare that I would do, because I don't like junk food anyway, but something like that. Like they never expected to be getting all that extra stuff, but we did a lot of fun things. So we did put our money more into experiences, but that was different. I just see that as different because we were doing it all together and it was fun, anyway.
Yeah, I think to each his own as well, but I do want to make like one comment. I see, because you've talked a little bit about how you never got us anything at the cash register. And then I think some parents have gone, oh my gosh, how harsh. I got to say, I do not feel like I missed out because I didn't get anything at the cash register, like the little Kinder Surprises or whatever it was.
Why do kids need all that crap? What are you doing? You're letting your kids, what? They put that there because of weak parenting. Do you think there'd be any chocolate bars there if I was the only type of parenting out there? There wouldn't be one. Not one. They'd probably be more likely to put cleaning products and toilet paper in the checkout for me. So my kids just never asked for anything because they knew if they asked, they'd never get it. And but yeah, oh God, and you see kids that are allowed to touch things when they're out. They got their dirty little hands touching all these chocolate bars and everything. Who wants to buy it after your kids have handled all that with their dirty? It's disgusting. Or else you go to a toy store and let your kids play with the toys there, and people have to buy that. They're now used toys. Don't let your kids do that. It's that entitlement, the spoiled entitlement. Whatever's out there, we don't even have to buy it. It's yours to play with and touch. I used to tell you, you can't touch anything when we're out. And, not in a store anyway, but if we obviously went to a play center, they could do whatever. But she's very tactile. She was dying to touch everything. So she would do, you can't see it here on the podcast, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. She'd do these little lobster claws. Her little claws would be going, but she wouldn't be touching anything. That was her way of thinking she was touching something. And this was the age of like 2. So she knew when we go out, you don't touch anything.
I wanted to, though.
But she didn't. And then, like she said, she never felt deprived. We had a fun life. I was doing stuff with them all the time. Then we'd go home and go to the water slide park, or we'd go down to the park and go biking or something. So we were always doing stuff. I wasn't buying them stuff so I didn't have to play with them. I played with them. I did stuff with them. We went out. So I was very active with my kids. So a lot of parents, I think, buy their kids stuff, and a lot of it's based on guilt. Or the fact that they felt they didn't get something. And they were trying to overcompensate for their own childhood. That's part of it too. But you're not doing your kids any favor.
Yeah. Why do parents spoil their kids? You were saying guilt.
They see it as love. I don't see it that way. I see it the exact opposite. If you really love your kids, don't spoil them. But spend time with them. Their love language is fun, not stuff. Their love language is playing with you and feeling enjoyed, feeling like you actually like being with them. That is their love language. Their love language is not going to the store and getting a bunch of crap. It's okay, you can do that if you want, but that's not their love language. Their love language is time, fun. But I think parents do that sometimes instead of playing with their kids. They think that's how you show love. It's not what they really want. I've never heard a kid say, really, unless they were really poor, I guess, but I've never really heard kids complain about their parents not buying them enough stuff. But how many times do you think I've heard kids say, my parents don't play with me, they don't spend enough time with me? That happens a lot.
Can you overplay?
Yeah, you can overplay. Like they were in charge of play for sure, but I was in charge of when I did play because I had a lot of stuff to do, right? So I'm busy. So but then when we played, they were in charge. So you overplay if they're in charge of it, if they're in charge of your lives. So if you're cooking dinner and they say, I want to play now, and then you stop cooking dinner so you can play with them, you see, they have to understand that you have things you have to do. So they're not in control of when you play, but once you're playing, they're in charge. Let them be in charge of the play. You play in their world.
It balances everything out too. I almost wish you had like a little 3-second at the end of every single video you talk about discipline, be like, but this is under the assumption that you play with your kids and you connect with them.
That's so true, because everyone asks me about discipline. They think that's what I teach. It's really not what I teach at all. I teach how to connect with your kids, how to make them feel heard, valued, validated, loved. That's what I'm teaching here. Discipline is a tiny part of it, but that's what everyone asks. Everyone wants to fix their kids, but really we don't fix kids here. We teach parents. So yeah, and whenever I was working with kids, I had no leverage, but I was good at connecting with them. And then once they respect me, they want to please me. So, because they looked up to me like a mentor, like a coach, someone that they made them feel good. They didn't look up to me because I was disciplining them. They looked up to me because I know how to get the best out of kids and make them feel good about themselves. So that's what I teach, how to make kids feel good about themselves when they're with you. Therefore, they'll treat you well. They'll feel good about you organically because of that. But your first goal with your children is to make them feel good about themselves. When you do that, everything else falls into place. Kids who feel good about themselves aren't rude. They aren't disrespectful. They aren't snotty. It doesn't go together. If you feel good about yourself and you're proud of yourself, you're not going to be disrespectful to anybody, let alone your parents. It would be humiliating.
feel like that's a life hack for life if you just makes anyone feel good about themselves.
It's so true. Um, yeah, I could go off on a tangent, but then that's not parenting. So, but yeah, they always say you should, when you go out and you're socializing or with business, be interested, not interesting. No one wants to be impressed. So be interested in other people. Don't try and be interesting.
Okay, should we move into the questions?
Yes.
Okay, so not all of these are directly about spoiling, but we have some here. So, Jessica from the United States, my son is almost 3, but this question is more of a hypothetical. What would you say are parent behaviors that can lead to a child being spoiled? Not in terms of having too much stuff, but in terms of not knowing how to cooperate with others, wanting their own way, and having a meltdown if they don't get their own way.
Well, don't try and avoid the meltdowns, but one thing I see parents do all the time is when they say, okay, we're going to be leaving in 5 minutes. And I always would use a timer if you've got a kid who doesn't transition well. I would say, okay, 5 minutes, here's the timer. As soon as that goes off, this is what I see happen a lot. They'll say, okay, we're going now. Oh, please, please, just one more minute. Okay, if I let you stay for one more minute, will we go? It turns into 20 minutes and it's hell and the kid's having a tantrum. And you can't figure out why? Like you just said, we're leaving. You were lying because you didn't leave. Kids interpret that as lying. Think about it. It's lying. You said we're leaving in 5 minutes and then you let them manipulate you and take charge. They have no respect for you at all because you just lied. So follow through, mean what you say and say what you mean. So I see that happen all the time, all the time. Please, one more minute. Then, yeah, who's in charge there? The kids? That's spoiling them. You're giving them all the control that they shouldn't have. They can have control when you're playing. Like, do you want to go on the swing set or the slide? Oh, let's go on the slide. Sure. But when you say, okay, we're going to be leaving in 15 minutes, mean what you say and say what you mean. If you're not willing to follow through, don't say it. But it's when you let them control stuff like that is spoiling them in a very negative way because they'll lose respect for you, which in turn means they'll lose respect for themselves too.
Yeah, it's kind of like at school, like lunch hour doesn't get extended just because you're having fun.
Please, please, can we please? Yeah, exactly. Isn't that ridiculous? What's interesting is kids never argue that. If it's lunch at school and the bell rings, do they argue that? Why not? Because there's no point. If I said to a kid and they knew me, right? And I said to them, okay, so we're going to be finishing this up in 10 minutes. When that alarm goes, they would never argue with me. Why would they? Because they know that it's over. If they said, please, I'd say, what are you talking about? Like, I wouldn't even get into a conversation about that. I'd just say, I'd close it up, make it. Now, here's the thing. I have no fear of tantrums. Zero. Those scenes, meltdowns, fits, and tantrums are them learning that you're in charge and they are not. Okay? You don't want spoiled kids. They're miserable kids. Spoiled kids are never happy kids. They're always miserable. So, yeah. But think about that. If you are giving in to those last minute demands, oh, please, okay, it's bedtime. Okay, please, I need a drink. Please, I love you. Please, all this manipulative stuff, and you give in to that, they're not happy. Neither are you. That's spoiling them. You think you're doing something nice, but it's actually meaner to do that because you're lying. And they have a liar as a parent now. They don't trust you. They don't feel safe with you because they know you don't mean what you say and say what you mean. Children are instinctively drawn to a leader. They need, crave, and want leadership. If you're not giving it to them, you think you're spoiling them, but actually it's meaner than being a leader. Spoiling kids is mean because they're always miserable. I've never seen a spoiled kid that looked happy because they're never going to get enough. Nothing's ever enough for them because they know they can always push you for more, and they're not happy about it. They don't like pushing you around. Okay, next question.
Okay. Anna from Serbia. My son is 2.5 years old. He is too attached to me. If I leave him with his grandma, he will cry for me to come back the whole time. I'm mostly solo parenting because my husband is working abroad. When he is home, he tries his best with our son, but I am always the default parent. My question is it normal for boys to be overly attached to their mothers, or did I do something wrong with my parenting?
Well, you were a Velcro kid. You were very much mommy's girl. And what I did was I made the goodbyes very quick because what I did with my kids is when they were up on their feet, probably about 1.5 years, probably like confidently up on their feet and walking, that's when I instantly went back to the gym because they had daycare there. But I didn't want my kids crawling around on the daycare floor. But anyway, so I dropped them off at daycare. She didn't like it at all, but I did it anyway. And I must admit, my son loved it, so I left him a lot longer. So I'd chat with all my friends at the gym, but with her, I'd kind of go back a bit quicker because I knew she wasn't happy there. But I just kept doing it and she learned. So yeah, just if you look upset about it and drag out the goodbyes, also don't make a big deal about the hellos either. I'd drop her off. Oh, okay, have fun. I'll see you later. And I'd go off and do my class. Then when I came to pick her up, okay, we're going to go shopping now. She'd be all emotional because mom was back. I wouldn't feed into that. Come on, sweetie, let's go. We're going to go shopping now. And off we'd go. So I made it like it was no big deal. You're probably feeding it. You're getting pulled into it and looking guilty. Don't look guilty. You may feel bad, but don't let them see that. They'll get used to it. She did. I remember she was in dance. I can still remember it was the Jan Conroy Dance School back in Brisbane. Now we can leave that in. We're not plugging it or anything. It was just where she went. So it was the first dance school I put her in. It wasn't the one she ended up in. Anyway, so I dropped her off there and I was there. Like I dropped her off in the class and then you go and sit back and they can see the parents. So I'm sitting there. Now she didn't want to be there and she could see me. So she kept looking over at me with her chin quivering. And every time she did, I'm staring her down like, you just suck it up, princess. She knew that's what I was thinking. There's no way I would feed that. I didn't look sorry for her or nothing. I'm like, you just keep dancing. I paid for this.
And I feel reasonably well adjusted as an adult right now. So I feel like when you tell that, people are like, okay, like what did that actually create? Well, I feel okay.
She was still very close to me, but she knew she had to go to school. She had to go to the gym daycare. She had to go to dance. She ended up loving it. Compulsive joiner is what she ended up becoming.
Yeah, the irony is now I would say I'm very much a person who I like to do my own thing. I like to go out and like join a whole bunch of stuff. It's ironic actually.
Yeah, very much a joiner. But it wasn't that you didn't want to do those things. You just wanted me with you. So she loved to be busy even when she was really little, but she just didn't want to be separated from me. But that was something I felt that was my job to train her that she can. And I was right there. Yeah. I was right there.
Plus life hack. Now I go and join all these things and then I can just call mom after and tell her about it.
That's right. Because I'm not there.
So I've worked the system. I found out you can just right after.
We still talk every day.
Yeah. I like file in these little things. Like if someone says something funny, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't wait to tell mom that.
I do the same. Sometimes if we haven't talked like for hours, I'll write down stuff that's happened because I know I'll forget. And another thing that happened.
Yeah, we can talk for too long.
Well, what struck me as funny was one day we were walking with her husband and the three of us were going to the gym. And my daughter and I, yab. He's usually just listening and he'll throw in the odd sarcastic comment or something, usually aimed at me. So,
he evens it out.
We get along very well. Anyway, so and it's usually her and I, yab. And then he's listening though. He looks like he's not. But if we say anything the least bit interesting to him, he's right in there. So he is listening. So anyway, so we were talking. And then he says, wait a minute, you guys already discussed that. We looked at him like he was insane. We're going to talk about it 20 more times and maybe change the way we say it. But I guess men only say something once. And once they've said it, it's done. It's over. Whereas women, we'd say the exact same thing 20 times, if not more.
But he's got like bad ears when we're...
it's unbelievable. You think, and he often's walking ahead of us. I don't blame him. He's probably embarrassed. But he's walking ahead of us. And I swear to God, if we say, or if he hears his name, what, he's listening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't understand why we'd already talked about it. You already mentioned that. Yeah, it's the difference between men and women. That's why we have, 40,000 words a day? Mm-hmm. I think it's more like 400,000. But anyway, 40,000 words a day and men have 4,000 words a day that they have to get out. It's in our DNA.
Well, it's funny because my back hurts right now. And it reminds me of like when you oftentimes had your back sore and you'd be on the couch. And that was like my favorite time because as a kid, I just got to sit down and chat.
I broke my back and I've had surgery. So I've always had chronic back issues. Anyway, I was told by this one doctor, is it possible for you to do nothing but lay on your back for 3 weeks? We might be able to heal this if we can do that. So I could get up and go to the bathroom, but that was it. So anyway, I laid on the couch for 3 weeks, basically. Their dad drove them to school and everything. So I've never seen her so happy. She was probably about 8. And I've never seen her look more happy. I was laying on the couch in agony. She was ecstatic. I was her victim. I couldn't get up and get away. She would just talk and talk. She was like, and she literally would talk so much. She'd go, and another thing.
Just envision me walking in the house or skipping into the house,
Running.
chucking my backpack and going and sitting down.
I was a total victim. I couldn't get away from her. That was funny.
Yeah. So I would say, even though you pushed me into these activities, we're still very close.
She was still a mummy's girl.
Yeah. Okay, next question. So Amber from the United States. 12-year-old girl. I'm a single mom of 7-year-old twins and a 12-year-old daughter. She is blatantly disrespectful and rude to me, yet only wants to sleep at my house and feels very comfortable here. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around her and know it'll blow up every time I ask her to pick up, unload the dishwasher, put away laundry that I already did, do homework, get off the dang screen, etc. At Dad's house, they get anything and everything, and she, out of the 3 kids especially, doesn't get disciplined there, as he is essentially Disneyland Dad. How will I get her to listen and respect me? We have a good relationship, but she treats me terribly. Someone has to parent. I feel like all I do is nag her.
I don't quite understand. We have a good relationship, but she treats me terribly. So I'm questioning maybe the relationship could be strengthened a little bit. Don't worry about what's going on at the other house. There's nothing you can do about it. They are very drawn to the leader. So no matter what's going on at the other house, she will be more drawn to you, and she will become more like she is with you, with everyone else too. So just work on yourself. She's 12?
Yes.
Okay, she's 12 years old. I would still recommend the boot camp course for 3 to 12-year-olds. It could actually stretch out to 14, but certainly every 12-year-old it would apply to. But I would suggest you maybe look at that. And it's all about setting yourself up as a leader. And also you said that she just has a fit. I suspect you're afraid of her fits. I have no fear of that. And that's a big part of my superpower with kids. I could care less if they have a fit, scene, meltdown, or tantrum. That's my power. That means that they're learning something. Every time, behind every fit, scene, meltdown, and tantrum is a lesson. Only if you ignore it and it doesn't bother you. If it bothers you, you just went down a peg. If you show like it doesn't bother you at all, you just went up a peg. So you still want to be a leader. You don't want to be, you can be friends with your kids so long as everything's great. But I'll tell you, if the poop hits the fan, I'm the leader. Right? So yeah, don't worry about what's going on at the other house. Nothing you can do about it. She will respect you more if you become a leader.
I just want to clarify, because you said every 12-year-old. There are some instances with the boot camp.
Oh, if they have special needs, but generally that age, unless they have special needs or there's special circumstances like trauma or abuse or something like that, obviously that would be coaching. But just generally, what I mean by, 12 years old, it can stretch up to about 14, but not if they're 14 going on 20. You know what I'm saying? They develop at different stages. Usually boys do develop a bit slower than girls.
Just wanted to clarify. Okay, Tessa from the United States. Hi, question for you. We have a 6-year-old and 10-month-old. We've had extreme active relationships with friends, family, neighbor groups since our 6-year-old was born, and we spent so much of our free time in group settings, sometimes 7 days a week in the summer. That said, we live in New England, I believe, NE. We're from Canada, so I don't know the shortened versions of all the US states. So that said, we live in New England and we can't play outside with neighbors, friends, etc. every night like my 6-year-old's been used to. We do still have cousins over, but I've noticed a shift in my 6-year-old where now that's the expectation. If we can't hang out with friends every night, he acts like a spoiled brat. The first thing he says when I pick him up from school is, "What are we doing? Can so-and-so come over?" And when I say, "No, buddy, we need to get home and start dinner and get things done around the house," he starts melting down and throwing a tantrum, which includes whining, crying, and complaining. My strategy has been to ignore his voice while it's talking in the whining tone or remind him, "I can't hear you when your voice sounds that way." And he's catching on quickly to that and will switch to speaking normally, but still really struggles with the hard truth of it's just not happening tonight. I do my best to make sure we spend quality time doing things he enjoys at some point, just us, but is there a strategy to better handle the daily letdown he feels when we're not hanging out with friends? This one is tough for me because it's him spending quality time with friends, not playing a game or watching TV. He truly does just enjoy spending time with friends as much as I do, so I get it, but I need to instill this is his life. Some nights there are going to be chores tasks to report to at the end of the day. I'll also add that he does great with independent play and really is so creative and with his imagination when he's alone, so it's hard for me to understand why every single day he seems dramatic if we're not hanging out with others.
Well, I think he's playing on your guilt. So you went from Disneyland, now he's at the library kind of idea, like all this excitement, and now everything's calmed right down, right? So he's playing you though, like he's working on your guilt. I'm suggesting you're feeling guilty. He's just not dealing with the transition. Over time, it should work out. And you said, I can't hear you when you're whining. I deal with whining a little bit differently. I would say, when you talk to me like that, I will not answer you. So I don't say I can't hear you, but if he's catching on, that's okay. But I like to go a little bit of the extra mile with that one. And I say, I'll tell you what, you may not be aware that you're whining, but whenever you do, I'll tug on my ear. That's my signal to you that you're whining, and I will not respond to you. But if you talk to me nicely, I will answer you, but the answer may still be no. The thing is, you're walking into a firestorm with this kid. He's manipulating you for sure. He's using your guilt. So don't be afraid of the tantrums. Just say, life's different. It's different for me too. And that's just life. Life changes sometimes. So don't feel guilt, or if you do feel guilty, don't show it. He's using your guilt, I think. How on earth are you going to compete with Disneyland? You can't. And by the way, I wasn't insinuating that you're as boring as a library, but you know what I'm saying. He's at Disneyland every single day, and now things are quite different. That's okay. He'll adjust eventually. But right now he's playing on your guilt.
How did you approach chores with us?
Well, I did the as soon as method. So they knew that they had to clean up after themselves. I used to tell all my family, I said, look, I love cleaning, and I never will ask you to do any heavy cleaning. Just pick up after yourselves. But if I ever have to pick up anything of when I say I'm going to be vacuuming and mopping, which I did every day, I said, if I say, okay, I'm going to be vacuuming and mopping, if I have to pick up one toy, you'll be doing the vacuuming and mopping. I have no memory of ever having them not pick up everything. Like everything it could just be thrown on their bed even. But it didn't matter to me. Like they just learned that was one thing. So they learned that if they didn't pick up, there was a consequence. They'd be doing the cleaning. And then the other one was, I'd wait till they asked for something. Mom, can we please have a snack? Sure, sweetie, as soon as you put your toys away. Or sure, sweetie, as soon as you make your bed. Then they learned that you've got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. They just sort of learned that organically. And I just sort of taught them, you got to clean up after yourself. You have to make your bed, put your laundry away, and put all your dirty clothes in the hamper, and put your toys away when you need to. They just learned. They never questioned it. It just, because, why did you never question that?
Didn't feel like I could.
Because there'd be a consequence, or you wouldn't get to go to the park. I would say, oh, okay, let's go to the park. As soon as you blah, 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 they'd run and do their chores, which were usually already done. So what I taught them is you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. And the funny thing was, as they got older, like about 3 or 4, they wouldn't even ask for anything fun until they knew their chores were done. Because they knew I would have said, sure, as soon as you put your laundry away. Sure, as soon as you see what I mean? So they just learned at a very young age. Plus, I didn't expect a lot. They weren't detailing my car or anything, they were just cleaning up after themselves, basically. Their dishes went in the dishwasher, their clothes went in the hamper, dirty, you know what I mean? They just picked up after themselves.
I feel like I pull this into my everyday life now as an adult too. Like I eat my vegetables first so I can really enjoy like the it's funny. It really did translate, I think.
Well, and I didn't want them to ever think I was going to police that or micromanage any of that. I never wanted to do that. I just wanted to train them to have self-discipline. That was always my goal. It's your choice. I never told them what to do. That was up to them. They could do whatever they wanted. But if they made a poor choice, I was in there with the consequence. Oh, gee, I saw you do that. Probably shouldn't have happened, right? What do you think's a good consequence? That's how, like, I would never use a behavior board. It's a teaching tool. That's why I use it with clients. It teaches you how to do this, but I would never use one. I want kids looking right at me. And so I'd say, oh, geez, probably shouldn't have done that. So here's a good consequence. Or what do you think would be a good consequence? And they'd come up. There was no anger in any of that. There was no, well, that was bad. You shouldn't have done that. It was nothing like that. It was just, that wasn't a very good choice. And then they just would, okay, how about no TV tonight? Or how about I make your bed tomorrow? Sure, okay. Or you can just brush my hair for 5 minutes or whatever. So it was that straightforward. But they knew Mom was on top of stuff. I never turned a blind eye. Did you feel I was watching? Did you feel I knew what was going on pretty much all the time? Like I was pretty on top of stuff. I was watching. I knew them. I never tried to avoid parenting. Like a lot of parents pretend they don't see stuff because they don't know what to do and they don't want to do anything. I had none of that in me. If I thought they were going to do something they shouldn't do, I was in there like a dirty shirt.
I wouldn't say I thought that there were security cameras around the house 24/7 monitoring me, but it felt like it.
They knew I knew what was happening. I was pretty on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew what was going on.
Hindsight, it was just my conscience, but
That's the thing is my son, it was interesting. He was a teenager and he goes, well, I could never even get in trouble because you're always sitting on my shoulder. And I said, sweetie, that's just your conscience. So, but yeah, I never said anything. He never had a curfew or anything as a teenager. Yeah, they just chose to do the right thing because they didn't want to disappoint mom or get in trouble, or they didn't want to see that look on my face, like, oh, that disappointed look. I would have hated it if I'd seen that on my mom. She was the leader. I would have hated that. Would have been embarrassed.
yeah.
I didn't use it very often though. They were good kids, I didn't, but if I ever did use it, oh boy, they hated that.
It had weight to it.
It meant something.
Okay, we have one final question. So Lauren,
Excuse me. It was mutual. For sure. If I did something the kids didn't like, I heard about it and it killed me. I hated disappointing my kids, so I would make it up to them too. It was two-way.
yeah, even now,
For sure. If I mess up, oh, I'm in trouble.
vice versa.
That's right. We're both accountable.
Final question. So Lauren from Australia, my 7-year-old will say they had the worst day of their life when not getting their own way. Even after I've taken him to the pool, park, gotten ice cream, had a dance party, if I say no, we can't go to McDonald's today, then that is what they focus on. How do I manage their feelings and expectations and gratefulness?
Well, that's a tell. It means that it bugs you. Now, seven.
7.
The worst day of my life because you didn't do that. I'd say, I'll tell you what, if that was the worst day of your life, I won't even bother taking you to the park or anywhere else then if it's the worst day of your life. So next time what we'll do is we'll spend the whole day vacuuming and mopping and seeing if that's a better day. No freaking way would I fall into that. No freaking way. What a great opportunity for me to say something like that. I'll tell you what, I got a good idea. We're going to go swilling out some public bathroom all day today.
You would have been frothing at a
I
comment
would have
like that.
loved that. I would have absolutely loved that if a kid said something that snotty to me. Yeah, there's no way I'd have any guilt. I'd say, I wasted that whole day and that was the worst day of your life. So next time, I know what might be fun. We're going to go rake out the playground. I got some rakes. We're going to go rake out all the sand at the playground all day tomorrow. That should be more fun for you, right? I would dive on that so fast.
You really would.
Oh, yes. That's like that time. Both my kids tried it once because they'd just been at a friend's. And they said, I'm bored. And I'd never heard that snotty tone from them. And that I'm bored, just like that snotty little spoiled tone. And I instantly zeroed in on them. They went, no, I'm not, because they knew me, right? And it's like, okay, fine, you're bored, my precious little angel. I don't want you to be bored. In the laundry room, filled up a bucket, gave them a mop. They were never bored again. Don't you try and manipulate me. I love that kind of stuff. And they both went, they were like backtracking right away as soon as they saw my face. No, I'm not bored. I was just kidding. No, you weren't. Let's go in the laundry room. Can't be manipulated.
Okay, that's it for the questions. It's time.
It's time. Okay. We've been talking about this on the lives. A lot of people are asking for it because we hinted at it. Was it on a podcast? The carpet story. We're going to tell the carpet story. It's a good one. But I don't want to be too graphic. And I feel like it's really funny if I tell it with no holds barred. Is that how it's called? No
Yeah. Let me just do the disclaimers now.
Okay.
I was 3. Okay? I was 3. I'm 30 now. I was 3, and we're all human, and you do this too. So I'm getting defensive, but I just need to start by saying we're all human. We all fart. Okay? And I'll start with that.
Okay. Now, this is the carpet story. So we were going to be replacing all of our carpets with wood flooring in the house. So we had this young guy over. Now, also, he was very young. He was like 21, very, very awkward. So this whole thing really threw him off, which made it even funnier because he should have just laughed, but he didn't. He was very uncomfortable, trying to pretend like it hadn't even happened. So my kids, of course, when you've got someone over, they're right in there like a dirty shirt. So him and I have got all the samples out on the dining room table. We're looking at flooring samples and we're talking. So my kids are just playing and they knew not to be too loud. They're like, so if you were 3, he would have been 8. My son would have been 8. They're rolling around on the floor, just goofing around. All of a sudden, my daughter lets go. Now, this is a fart like a sumo wrestler. It was so loud, and her bum was sort of on the floor. It reverberated. I mean, basically the whole house shook. It was so loud, you would think it was a sumo wrestler. Anyway, so my son and I just got eye contact and lost it. We both started laughing, returning red. This poor guy kept trying to talk like he was pretending didn't even happen, which was ridiculous. My daughter stood up, humiliated, turned beet red, and ran out of the room. Okay. It gets better. So I can't hold it together. I'm laughing so hard. And my son, like the two of us can't even look at each other. We're laughing so hard. And this poor young guy's, I don't know what was wrong with him. And maybe he didn't grow up in a family where they laughed. I don't know, but he did not laugh at all. He's trying to pretend like he didn't even notice, which made my son and I laugh even harder. So it's about 5 minutes goes by, and I'm trying to talk to this guy about flooring. And then my daughter comes right back in the room as if, they must have forgotten by now. She comes back as if nothing's happened. Well, my son and I said, oh, she came back in. Are you going to do some more farts? She was humiliated. But anyway, the moral of the story here is that gas is funny, better out than in. Don't try and do it in front of other people, but if you do, don't try and hide it, because no one's hiding it. But I couldn't believe how you thought everyone must have forgotten by now.
I think it was this combo of I was 3. I was 3, by the way, everyone.
Yeah, well, okay. No, she was.
I think it was that combo of I was also just getting bored by myself, and I was like, oh, they must have forgotten by now.
And then when she came back out, my son and I were just all over that. When you come back out to fart some more? And I mean, and she was just standing there humiliated again. But anyway, that was the carpet story. I probably built it up too much. That was one of the hardest we've ever laughed, because she was so sure that we had such short memories that it was just all over. And of course, my son and I would never let her forget that. So she ended up running away again. And then we laughed. Anyway, she ended up laughing at that too, eventually.
I am chock full of embarrassing stories, though. I've got a lot.
I want to tell the one about my son with the pool guys. They were putting a pool in, but I'm going to have to ask his permission to tell that story. So we haven't got permission on that one. That one's very, very funny.
Oh gosh, I feel like this is not fair. Every time we tell a story, we go, well, we actually want to tell this one.
We have a really good one with him, too. But it was different. He was more the victim in that one, but it was these construction guys that came in the house to use the bathroom.
He was more the victim. What was I, the perpetrator?
Yes, exactly. You were the perpetrator. But anyway, what was so funny was just the fact that we just giggled at everything in our household. And the reason why she came back in, and I think we were still laughing. I think she thought we were laughing at something else at that point. She didn't want to miss the laughter. She came back in thinking that we're laughing at something else. Well, of course, once she realized it was still at her, that's when she ran out again. But she knew she didn't stand a chance. We were going to be teasing her about that forever, which we did.
And here we are.
Here we are. We're still laughing at it. You got to have a sense of humor to last in our family, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun, though. Okay, that was the carpet story. Thanks so much. I will try and get permission from my son to tell the other story. It's another beauty. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.